Back to forum, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to the Duxbury Planning Board meeting, July 27th. Before we get started, we'll have our Vice Chair read.
Sure, thank you. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 and as amended as of March 28th, 2025, this meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy by a remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public and board members, the meeting or hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless required by law. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so by using the Zoom link in the agenda. Viewers can visit https://thelocalscene.media/Duxbury for information about Duxbury programming, including streaming and watching replays on Duxbury YouTube.
Thank you very much. All right, so first up on our agenda, our first agenda item is administrative items. We've got minutes, but I don't think we have any of those. We're going to skip over that. We do need to select a new planning board liaison to the DEI steering committee. And if we turn to your meeting folder, you'll find that there's a list of what everybody's doing. So Taylor, right now we have a completely liaison. Right now the spot for the DEI steering committee.
Yeah.
We also have other ones. If you're interested in that, that'd be great. If not, if you want to first trade with somebody else. Swiss there are, we could do that too.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I'm happy to participate where needed. I know I'm the poster child for diversity over here. But absolutely happy to assist that committee since it's open and I'm not on the list.
That would be great. And then in the future, if you want to think about what might kind of interest you.
Yeah, probably sidewalks and things like that would be the most suited to my expertise.
You can first trade with that with you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I've done Russell, I guess. Okay, great, thank you. Do we need to nominate him?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think it's actually the select board votes on it, so I think
We can just say this is new. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, next up, just an FYI, there's some new state laws regarding zoning. Matt, you haven't come across this already, I don't know. But this is more having to do with this will impact the ZBA more than us. So I would add to that.
Yeah, I mean, they're actually a pretty big deal. All these new state laws. We're definitely sort of in a period of flux. But as far as these ones, I think they just passed July 1st. As far as these particular ones, it does seem like it impacts the ZBA more than the planning board because it involves variances, kind of the criteria for variances. Some stuff about pre-existing non-conformities. It definitely, they tweaked a few things to make it easier for residential and then a few other things as well.
Okay. All right, so you don't see anything that really pertains to us, right?
Not directly, now, I mean, it may become more evident over time, but at the moment, yeah. And some of it sounds kind of technical, but it might actually have some, in some cases, kind of some major impacts for certain types of small projects, and people renovating their houses and stuff. Yeah.
All right, great, thank you. All right, next up after that is planning board administrative. Does that anybody have anything you want to bring up on those lines? Oh, hey, Tag.
Hello.
No, is there anything you'd like to bring up administratively for the board?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Well, actually, there is one thing I'd like to offer to the chair, and this is a subject of current interest that I'd like to ask to be placed on the agenda. It has to do with the Miramar property. There's a lot of information circulating, and I think some attention from the planning board would be appropriate.
Okay, so Tag, what would you suggest? Would you like us to ask representatives to come and speak with us about the potential project?
That would certainly be useful, yeah.
Or is there something else you had in mind?
Well, it's just the fact that it's a property that transcends the boundary with Kingston. It seems that, there is some need for coordination between the communities. So I'd like to understand what the planning board's role might be in that.
Matthew and Emily, does that seem appropriate to kind of invite them maybe to come and talk with us? Because ultimately, if it is in fact a confirmed rumors and it's a 40B, And if so, we'll see it eventually anyway, so would it make sense to invite them to come and talk to us proactively?
Well, the 40B application actually goes, well, initially it goes to the state, but then it actually goes to the ZBA. It's kind of a strange aspect of the laws.
Yeah.
You know, logically, you think it'd be the kind of thing that would go to the plan, but for some reason, when they created the 40B state legislation back in the 70s or whatever it was, they specified that they go to the ZBA. So strangely enough, the planning board has virtually, I mean, as you know from previous experiences, the planning board does kind of write up comments and so forth. But otherwise, the planning board doesn't really much to do with it. So, you know, I can certainly kind of, yeah, I can certainly sort of explore that possibility. For the planning board or some other, or coming for the town in some fashion.
It will ultimately come before us for site plan review, so it would be nice to talk to them in advance of, one of the. There are a lot of rumors swirling around, so it might be helpful for them to talk to us, to talk proactively about the potential for what they might do.
And give clear information. I think some of the information that's been
Yes.
out there has not been necessarily accurate.
Yeah.
And so it helps when they come in front of
Yeah.
us earlier.
It would help them and the community.
Yeah.
This would be an easy forum for them.
Yeah,
Has anything actually been filed yet?
to the best of my knowledge, no. I mean, the filing,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the filing goes to the ZBA and before that it goes to the state and then to the town. So I mean, if it was, you know, if it was received like, 4 hours ago, I wouldn't know necessarily. But I would probably, otherwise I would probably be aware of it, that's the kind of thing I would hear about pretty quickly. So to the best of my knowledge, but I should just back up to clarify. I mean, you mentioned it would get site plan approval for the plan, but I don't think that's the case. It just gets enough 40B.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, not site plan, but
Yeah.
it does come before us and we have the opportunity to provide feedback on site. plan.
Correct, yeah, yeah.
So, but even so proactively, we could still say, when this does get submitted, the planning board would be eager to talk to meet with you. If they feel so inclined.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I think, like Taylor said, makes a lot of sense. It's to their advantage to, to come soon to talk, just kind of to give, accurate information. So,
Anything
Yeah, I
else?
guess to summarize the concern, just due to the magnitude of the project, it definitely impacts the town's infrastructure, roadways, et cetera. So I think it would behoove the planning board to be prepared to back up the ZBA and provide perhaps a broader lens to the view of the project.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Doug.
Thank you.
All right, next up, agenda item 2, which is ANR 2026-01. This is for Summer Street, owned by St. Paul's Church of the Nazarene. Do we have a representative?
I'm here, yes.
Okay, great. Would you like to state your name and your address and tell us a little bit about the project or tell us a little bit about what you're asking for?
Sure. My name is Jeremy Stanford. Our address at the church is 136 Summer Street. I actually live in Marshfield, so
Okay.
probably not that helpful. But our current property is kind of a horseshoe that goes out to Kingstown Way, and then horseshoes around another residence, and then goes back out to Summer Street. And we are hoping to parcel out a 1 acre lot to sell on the other side of the horseshoe. So it would be our church, someone else's home, and then potentially 1 acre lot that we could sell.
And so looking at the ANR that we have, where is the horse? Can you help us identify?
Yeah, absolutely. Can I come up? Is that okay? Is that fine?
So
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. That works too.
if you want to go, just be careful
Yeah.
of the touch screen.
I got it.
Okay. Everybody wants to
A
get,
lot of problems.
everybody wants to touch it and then it doesn't. Right, and you're, oh,
Yeah, right. So this is the church is actually kind of over here. Our property extends out to Kingstown Way. This is our second parsonage. Our first parsonage is kind of over here. These are our neighbors, Dan and Reagan. And this is the lot that we would be looking to sell off of Summer Street. So if you think where Chandler comes down, right here, and you kind of take a right off of Chandler, that's Summer Street that goes across. Yeah.
so then the parcel would still be connected to church property, just a different lot.
We'd be looking to sell it to a different owner.
but, so you'd be looking to sell, I'm sorry, you're looking to sell the one, the lot on
The 1 acre lot, yeah,
just parcel two.
yeah.
So I'm sorry, but the not buildable lot,
The not buildable lot is like our playground and
Okay.
forest
I'm
and,
sorry, that's what I meant.
yeah, absolutely, no.
Any questions?
Yeah, question.
Go ahead,
Uh,
Ty.
Given that the applicant had to point at the diagram, and I can't see what he's pointing at, my question is why on the planning board A&R checklist is the location of all existing structures and septic systems and stone fences and public shade trees marked as not applicable? Because it seems like that information is necessary to consider this application.
You know why typically we have the buildings on the, are actually
There's,
listed.
there's nothing on the lots at this time. so-
Yeah, I don't think we have any of those,
Okay.
things.
So both of the parcels delineated here have no structures, no septic, no trees.
Well, I mean, there's like the forest,
Yeah.
I guess.
Would any of them be considered public shade trees? I'm just being candid. I can't see what you're pointing at, so it's really hard to interpret this polygon I'm looking at.
I'm sorry.
So is it basically tag everything in parcel one and parcel two, they're planning to ultimately sell?
No, just partial.
Just partial
Sorry,
two.
sorry.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's okay, parcel two, yeah.
No, I mean, the shade trees wouldn't matter though. That would be just being developed later on. This is just to create an A&R lot to sell
To
it.
sell it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think like if there are shade trees, that would come up later in the process. Like if somebody was trying to actually get a building permit on lot two. Is it lot two? You know, then that's when that would be an issue for a possible public hearing or other kinds of thing. I mean, I think it's basically they're both forested, and then, as you said, lot one, I guess, kind of has a small portion of their parking lot that extends into it, as well as kind of their kind of play area or a little park, and then more woodlands over to there.
Any other questions from the board?
Madam Chair, if I may, just coming back to Tag's original point, where it says NA for, adjacent for, buildings and septics and such. So I'm looking at 150 Summer Street, so that's the Rodriguez parcel there.
Yeah.
Up to the right. So there are no structures on that particular.
There's a house, yeah.
Oh, there's a house there,
Yeah,
okay. So
but-
then getting back to what Tag was talking about earlier, ideally the plan would show,
Well,
I think the building for an adjacent parcel.
But because this is a certified plat, they would have to survey that property, and getting permission to survey a parcel that's not your own is not necessarily, like, you can't force someone to allow you to survey the property.
Mhm.
So to say that's where that parcel is on a certified deed, like a deeded plat, it's that, there's probably a law that restricts that. If they had them on their parcels, you'd have to show them, but not necessarily on the adjacent parcel. This is less of a vicinity map than on a,
Yeah,
it's more of a legal schematic showing this is where the new lot line's gonna be.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's non-locus. So you wouldn't be able to show the shade trees. We're really just here for the purposes of subdividing this parcel here. And if there were any structures on our subject property, then they would show it, but not on the abutting lots.
thank you.
Yep. And I guess I understand now, looking at the plan, that below the seal, where it says Church in the Nazarene, that parcel on the right of the drawing is where the church exists, and that's where the frontage with Summer Street and the parking lot and all of that is over to the right, not really on this diagram. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain motion to, we're not approving this for.
To endorse it, yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to endorse this A&R for 2026-001 for Summer Street.
Second. Oh, so moved, sorry.
Sorry, we'll take a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for roll call vote, starting with Tag.
Well, my only discussion point is I think if it's a part of the checklist, we ought to honor the principle and actually identify the resources, but I'll vote aye. Tag Carpenter, aye.
Lawrence, Ray, aye.
Matthew Ray, aye.
Kristen Rath, aye.
Steve Kent, aye.
Taylor Doyle, aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome to stay.
Okay, I just didn't want to be rude. All right, thank you so much. Have a great night.
All right, up next, agenda item 3 is continued public hearing. This is for 508 Bay Road, ADU site plan review. Again, do you want to go ahead, just what we'll do today, since this is a continuation, we'll do just an update, and
Sure.
you'll talk, we'll talk, and conduct the public.
Yeah, so I'll just do a quick intro, just quickly going over what we talked about last time. So Kevin Flaherty from Flaherty Stefani, representing Devin and Allison Graham at 508 Bay Road. What they're proposing is an ADU on their property with a garage below. The ADU is for Allison's mother, so they're going to be hopefully moving her in. A lot of the discussion last time was about the proximity to the right property line, as you can see down here. We've looked at lots of different options, whether we can move it a little bit forward or whatnot. So what we kind of came up with was sliding the whole structure over 5 feet. We're only required to have a 15-foot setback, but we tried to do whatever we could. It can't really push it too much farther than that because there is an existing driveway. So we are kind of shoehorning in where it is, but it's, we feel like it's going to work, as well as keeping correct separation from the existing septic tank that's out there. And then also what we did was we added a couple pictures to the plan showing what we believe is hopefully a suitable buffer on that side with the fence and the tree line that's there. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. So.
Could you just, yes. See the where the driveway is going to line up with the existing driveway will line up. You said it will be a little shoehorn.
So what we had before was the garage is kind of centered on the structure. So it was a little bit more straight in. So what we'll be doing is kind of making a turn in towards this way. I took the hatching off. That was too dark last time. But it comes in this way and the garage would be right underneath that. So it's just kind of fattened out a little bit in that area. So you don't have to back out to Bay Road and things along those lines.
And what's the distance between 32 inches? I just answered my own question.
So yeah, so it's 32 feet from the existing structure to the proposed ADU, and then approximately 50 feet to the abutters on that side. Pulling like I said, we pulled it 5 feet exactly away from it, keeping it in line with, the existing house and whatnot. And you can see from the pictures, the one maybe down here, there's an existing shed that sits right there. So if you're looking, the picture was taken kind of from this floor elevation here. It might be down a little bit more, right below that one. So if you're standing up by the existing house, you're looking at this direction towards the abutter's house. This is the shed that's shown kind of off the page up that way, but in that same line, give or take. And in our actual ADU will be kicked in away from the property line from that shed.
We're working on that. Any questions or thoughts from the board?
If I may, so as you say, you pulled it back another 5 feet or so from the property line. When you did that require that you make any changes to what you would plan to do, like, for example, with grading the site?
No, because in working in that, it was, so this is the flat area that's going to be between the two structures. So really, as you get down here, it's kind of the slope flattens out where the existing driveway is, because this is actually, this grayed out area is the existing paved driveway. So it wasn't too much of a grading change. We had to squeeze the tanks a little bit in there, but we still have separation from the tanks as well as the leaching field, proposed leaching field.
Okay.
Tag, any questions?
No questions. I definitely want to, commend the applicant for accommodating the abutter. This is helpful.
No, I mean, I think, anytime that you do more than what's required of you is, we can only apply what the regulations are, and the regulations are 15 feet. And since you've provided more than that, I think it's, like Tag said, it's commendable to try to make it work.
Sometimes the public hearings can bring out the best in people, and then the best of neighbors. We appreciate that extra. That wasn't something, just to be clear, they're not required.
No, but again, it doesn't change their project. The in-law still is right next to the existing house, so we can 5 feet we can make it work.
All right, thank you. All right, anything else from the board? we feel comfortable, voting on this tonight?
Oh, do you want to give the public a chance to?
Oh, gosh, yes, I'm so sorry. Yes, for the public like to speak. Yes.
Can't tell you how upset I am. We were supposed to 2 weeks. I haven't heard from these people. This is the first time I'm hearing about this. We were supposed to have some kind of conversation. I thought we were gonna be outside looking at it, talking about it. I sent you pictures. Hopefully you're gonna look at those pictures. This tree line that I'm looking at. Look at the angle. It's not straight on. Can't see straight on there. Of course it's green. Those trees, what are they? Cryptomerias, I sent you pictures. Hopefully you're gonna look at those pictures. There's big gaps in there. It's wide open. This building is gonna go right here. It's still gonna shade these trees here. If the sun comes up and goes over this way, the building's gonna put more shade on those trees. These trees are dying. They don't do well at all. They're not growing well like the green giants. I got 75 green giants on the property. I got five of those trees, cryptomerias, right where they put the building. And if you look at the pictures, I got big gaps. I can see all their fence. It's wide open. You got holes up there. And the unit, they just pushed it 5 feet away from it. So instead of 40 feet, it's 45 feet from my house. It's a rental unit that's gonna be there. Not only that, if you look at the pictures, this is where we live. This is our patio. This is where we are. This is our kitchen. These are our 3 bathrooms over here. Look at on those windows, 3 bathroom windows. Our den is right here. Our kitchen's right here. Our master bedroom's right there. You're putting a rental unit. I know instead of 40 feet, it's 45 feet. Solve it. And I didn't even hear from them for 2 weeks. Come in here and I hear this. I tell you, I can't tell you how frustrated and upset we are over this. I don't know what else to say, but if you can look at those pictures of those trees, those cryptomeria trees don't grow very well. That building's gonna shade the trees even more. It's gonna be even more open. And all we're gonna do is just have people just right there. You know, I got a nice house. I spent a lot of money to try to privatize it, and I'm losing that. And I'm sorry that Devin's a nice guy and he wants to take care of his mother-in-law. All we ask is that, can he move it up here? Can he move it up here, which is away from my patio, move it down here a little bit? These trees are shaded. These are all the green giants. Not a problem with those trees. All I can do is just move. Can you move it away from my living area and those trees that, if those are green giants, it still would be a problem, but not as big a problem. But those cryptomeria trees, you see their fence. Look at the pictures.
So I think we do have the other.
I'm just angry and frustrated. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Ralph Devaney. I'm the abutter. I didn't even say it. I live here. My wife Eileen. I don't know if you have anything here.
Maybe they could, Eileen Devane, also. Maybe they could go, I had suggested, maybe they can go closer to the street where the arborvitae's are, they can just move it out this way, instead of going towards their house, they could go forward. With the ADU. And then they would have the total, you would be blinded by the trees. And because they have a garage going on the bottom, so therefore the height of it is going to be tall. You'll be able to see my second floor window. So if they go closer to the street, might solve the problem. Plus those trees are heavily greened, leafed out,
And when you say closer to the street, you're talking through the chair,
like forward, instead of going towards their house this way.
going towards Chestnut Street, in other words, or no,
go
toward Day Road,
Yeah,
sorry. Day Road.
yes, closer, just up that way a little bit.
The 15 feet would be all right, even if they went forward and left the 15 feet. I don't worry or care about that. I mean, I just don't want them outside.
Right, that's the patio area.
And then it's gonna shade those, look at the trees, if those are green giants right there, you wouldn't see that fence.
Yeah, but you'd still have the noise and you'd still have.
I
the
know that.
lights.
I'm just saying, the point is that.
Can I add something here as the homeowner?
Sure.
So first off, thanks everyone. I appreciate your time and looking into this project for me. Of course, I think everyone heard me last time about how important this is for me and my family. I think a lot of it in particular, as you know, is because of I'm building this thing because of my mother-in-law and how we need her to be close to our family. And you know, the great thing about the design currently, like we discussed, was the porch and the deck being able to be walkable out and have her easy access to our main house. Um, and I know the structure, I think this isn't going to be as big as I think that my neighbor Ralph is saying it's going to be. But the one thing I would say to consider is those trees are substantial. I mean, those things have grown immensely over the last few years. I'm sorry that you didn't grow, 5 or 6 more green giants or whatever they are, but at the same time, they are enormous trees. That fence is a 6-foot fence. So look at how big those trees are over the top of the 6-foot fence. Like they are huge. There's only one window on that side that's going to face that property. And I can promise you this, as long as I live in that house, I never plan on renting it, ever. So, and I can tell you right now, I refinanced my house during COVID, so I have a great mortgage that I will never give up. So I can promise you that there will never be a renter. My grandmother or my mother-in-law is a sweet lady. She's not going to be blaring music or anything like that. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Neighbors see neighbors. I mean, this is Bay Road we're talking about. This isn't, out in Church Street or wherever. Like you're gonna, like look out windows, I see my neighbors across the street. You're gonna see little structures. And I know, these trees are huge. I know a couple of my neighbors that I talk to, we used to have bay views before a lot of these trees were planted. And Kevin and I went back and forth about should I plant additional trees? But at the end of the day, I think everyone can see that these trees are massive. And if I just planted more trees, you'd have trees, then a fence, then even more trees, and then that fence is going to have to get replaced. It's going to turn into a whole nightmare. But at the end of the day, I think, I'm happy to move the structure closer to our house. I think moving it towards the street makes a mess of the grade and what we're trying to do with the septic system. And really, at the end of the day, we're not trying to do anything crazy. We're just trying to really do what's best for our family. And I hope that the committee and Ralph, I hope that everyone can see that and trust that, I'm a good guy. I'm not trying to pull any fast ones and get renters in there or anything like that. We're just really trying to do what's best for not only ourselves, but really the neighborhood as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. I understand it's very frustrating for the adjacent neighbors, and it would like to kind of think about this. They have cited it so that it will create less, and it will be more harmonious to the house and it sits beside to the principal dwelling. The other thing is, even if, the applicant decided to move the trees forward or backwards, there's no guarantee that I'm going to step outside our purview for just a minute and say, like, kind of thinking long-term as a neighbor. There's no guarantee that those trees won't die too, or that you can't plant some other trees where you find there is a hole. So the neighbor is in his right to do this. He's dotted all the T's and all the T's, dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's. And he's actually made an accommodation here by moving the house 5 feet closer. And he's not under any obligation to do that. So I understand this is very frustrating, and you build a beautiful patio and a beautiful, very private yard there. And I hope that you'll hear him when he's saying that he's not planning to rent this, and he's not planning that that there'll be one window that looks onto the fence.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee that we don't know if he's gonna move or not. I can't.
You're
predict the
absolutely,
future.
you're absolutely right.
But, we didn't buy the property to be next to a property. In other words, if you look for a house, you know what you're getting. I wasn't aware I was gonna get this next to my patio. Okay, so if the patio wasn't there, it was in the back, the kitchen was in the back, probably wouldn't be a problem. That's infringing on my rights to enjoy my patio and to enjoy my home.
Through the chair, unfortunately, you have to understand the planning board's review here is somewhat limited. These ADUs are a protected statute, so by satisfying the requirements of the statute, our review here on the planning board is extremely limited. We can make some recommendations, but as long as they satisfy the statutory requirements, which they have in this one, we're not in a position to deny the ADU as long as they've satisfied their
So
requirements here.
we don't have any property rights. We don't.
Not so much,
Because
I don't think there's an
because of our
infringement.
structure so close.
Yeah,
We don't have any rights.
I mean, you're certainly well within any rights you can contact the lawyer, but in terms of the review here in the planning board. Is, our rights are limited to deny this, given the fact that they've satisfied the requirements for the ADU. It's a new statute within the last 12, 15 months, but it has specific requirements, and as long as your proposed ADU satisfies those requirements, you are pretty much entitled. Our review here on the board is very strictly limited.
What else is requirement?
Can I weigh in for 1 second just on that scene? So again, we are abiding by the zoning bylaw, which is kind of the restrictions that Devin and Allison have on their property. So we couldn't put the structure 10 feet from your property, but if they wanted to build a new house, we wouldn't even be in front of this board. We could build 15 feet off the property line. So this conforms to all the zoning bylaws, which is kind of our structure that we have to follow. And that's kind of what the protection is from your property to make sure we don't build too close to your property, is the 15 feet. So if we were inside that and asking relief, then there would be more of, I guess, an argument, but we're really trying to, make it work within the confines of the law.
Yes, so that is, I mean, just to kind of add to that, I mean, for better or worse, Duxbury, the zoning bylaws specify for the side yard and the rear yard setback, at least a 15-foot setback, a minimum of 15 foot. So that is, so nobody can build, their garage or their house, 10 feet from your line unless they get some special variance from the ZBA. But they are allowed to build anywhere at least 15 feet or further, whether it's like a new house or maybe a garage or a shed. And I believe that's actually true, that, for example, if they were proposing, say, to build like a new garage, that's 15 feet away, they could just go directly to the building department to get a building permit without even coming before the planning board, without even notifying the abutters. And of course, you have the same rights as well. So those kind of are the rules that everybody has to abide by. And unfortunately, sometimes it can feel maybe like an infringement on from the neighbor's point of view. It can certainly feel very unfortunate if the house is 20 feet away from their boundaries. But those are just kind of the rules that everybody has to abide by. And those are the rights that property owners have to build houses and sheds and so forth on their own properties.
And can I ask one quick question too? If someone planned to plant 85 trees that blocked out people's water views, would they need approval to do that? Or could they just go ahead and do that without anyone saying anything?
I honestly don't know. That's a question for the building department, I guess, maybe the contractor.
Only if you had deeded air rights. I mean, not to make this too legally complicated, but if it's on their property, then yeah, unfortunately, you can go up as long as you're within the zoning requirements of the town.
So I guess that's what the point I was getting at was, as much as I respect the privacy of my neighbors, and I do to the max, they went ahead and they put 85 of these monster trees around their property, and they blocked out multiple neighbors' water views. And all I'm asking is to put a structure for my mother-in-law to come live with us, pretty much. And I just hope that, the board and everyone just appreciates that, we're just trying to do what's best for our family, not trying to get into a whole back and forth. And I hope we can just move forward tonight with an approval, because really, I think I talked about it last time, time is of the essence, and whatever we can do to move this thing forward would be greatly, greatly appreciated by me and my family.
Any other discussion? He doesn't have that. He doesn't have the one to do. Any other discussion? Any from the board, advice? Zach?
Yeah, Kristen, if I may, through the chair, I've been thinking a lot about this, and obviously we're going to be addressing the same issue in the next discussion. And it is a fact that in Duxbury's bylaw, the very beginning states very clearly that the value of the town is the peaceful enjoyment of the land. And so I take that as primary. That is a principle. Now, what we're running into here is we're parsing diagrams with numbers. And the law specifies 15 feet. That is absolutely correct. So the rights of the property owner proposing the project are well delineated. However, the rights of the abutters are not. And this is, in my view, a deficiency in the law. So because Duxbury has had very stable zoning for a very long time, we have not had to confront this very much. And the protected use ADU has upset the apple cart. And it is creating this contention among neighbors, which is truly unfortunate. I'm sorry to see it. And it is a question of balancing rights. The property owner constructing has rights. The abutters also have rights. But the abutters' rights are not quantified. And this makes them very difficult to evaluate. But if we apply the principle of peaceful enjoyment of the land, it gives us the ability to take into consideration the rights of the abutter. And you can imagine, I can imagine, some type of measure of peaceful enjoyment or the reduction thereof. And I suggest, and I would like to encourage the members of the board to think more about this, think about how much is the peaceful enjoyment of the land of the abutters impacted by an application. In this instance, the applicant has taken steps to reduce that reduction in the peaceful enjoyment. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see more of that. And unfortunately, it puts you into a situation where you're trading off, immediate costs, construction costs, additional, drawings and things like that, which arguably harms the applicant in favor of the abutter. So it's not a good situation. And I think that we may need to look carefully at this and suggest changes to our bylaws to address it more directly. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, so I will entertain a motion to, what's the pulse of the board?
They
They've met all the requirements.
Madam Chair, I think that's what we're faced with here. They've presented an application. They've made a good faith effort to make a modification that would arguably benefit the abutter. And I don't see any reason to proceed with to not proceed to vote on this.
Any other sentiments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve this ADU application.
I want to close the public hearing.
Oh,
Yeah. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing for.
someone.
Second. Any discussion about closing the public hearing? All those in favor, roll call vote, starting with Tag.
Tag Carpenter, aye.
Lawrence, sorry, I.
Matthew Ray, aye.
Christine Rapp, aye.
Steve Gant, aye.
Taylor Doyle, aye.
Great, thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve this ADU application for 508 Bay Road.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All right, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for roll call vote, starting with Tag.
Tag Carpenter, aye.
Lawrence, sorry, I.
Matthew Ray, aye.
Christian Rapp, aye.
Steve Gant, aye.
Taylor Doyle, aye.
All right, yep, the motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, next up, continued public hearing for 161 Chestnut Street, site plan review. We'll do the same thing that we did last time. We'll have the applicant talk, the board will talk, and then we'll have comments from the public.
Can I ask you a question?
Just,
Do we have any right to get a lawyer and maybe appeal this?
I would have to talk to an, I have.
Yeah, I mean, you just approved it. I just want to know can we talk to a lawyer about it? And maybe that we might find out if there are some rights, because I know that throughout the state, these things have been appealed. And lawyers have been involved, so I just want to know.
Yeah, I mean, you can always call my office tomorrow or this week and I can explain it more to you.
No, I don't want an explanation. I want to know if I could get, the appeal process?
Yeah, I can,
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
exactly, yeah, I'd be happy to.
No, I still have the right to appeal it then. I mean, you just approved it. I just want to know. They're gonna start digging holes in it.
The answer is yes. Anyone who's aggrieved by a decision of the planning board can appeal to the zoning board of appeals. That's how the law is written.
I don't think we're in a position to start giving legal advice on this now, and this is only a site plan review.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but give me a call, we can discuss it. At the moment, I'm honestly not sure. I should know, but I just don't.
The appealable action would be the issuance of the building.
Okay. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah. Because we just did the same thing.
Yeah. All right. Let's get me back to the public hearing for 161 Chestnut Street.
Hi, good evening.
This update, please.
My name is Max Polo with Grady Consulting here with Buildex and the homeowners. So the adjustments we made to the plan, we added some pictures of the existing house so you can kind of see how the property looks. From there, we extended the vicinity map and I made it less dim so it'd be a little bit easier to see. We showed kind of as requested an average kind of front setback along the street. We did 5 properties on both sides. We showed distance, I guess, could you please zoom into the ADU area? It kind of had to get reduced a bunch to get sent in, so, okay. So we showed distance approximate from the GIS locations of the abutting properties that were concerned. And I drew up a little calculation for an approximate, again, from GIS of the average setbacks, showing that we are further than the average setback from the front yard there. And then if you could please go to page 3. You can see we're proposing 15 arborvitaes, 3 feet on center, to help screen from the abutting properties. I talked to our landscape architect to give the best advice on where to place these. And we place them as such so that when they get to full growth, they will not be on the abutting properties either. I'd like to open up to any questions, Buzz.
Yeah, I think that there were some other changes that were made to the plans. If you could go over those with us, please.
Yeah, just I did change the note regarding the abutter conversation with the trees. I removed that. There was a conversation with the abutter regarding removing the trees. They're just going to be removed as part of the project. I believe that is all I can remember I made on the site plan. In regards to the floor plans, though, I can't speak for it, so I did not change those.
Just talking about the site plan. Okay, anybody have any questions about the site plan? That's something that we wanted to bring up. In the last public hearing, the owner mentioned that there was an existing ADU, and so
Not an ADU, it's a garage.
there's a garage that was permitted to be occupied. It has a kitchen, bathroom, and bedrooms.
No, it wasn't permitted.
Yes, it was, actually. It was not permitted as an accessory dwelling unit, because that's not what they were called then. It was permitted otherwise. We talked to town council, and it is now considered an accessory dwelling unit
By what statute?
by the statute that you've applied.
It never went through site plan approval. It was never deemed an ADU, it wasn't permanent ADU. You just can't pick and choose and call it an ADU.
The town attorney has,
I asked for the correspondence, I never heard from anyone.
you're not entitled to that correspondence. That is
When I was here last time, you said you were gonna provide that.
No, I did not. You asked for that, and I said, we'll take that under advisement, but we're under no obligation to talk with you about our confidential conversations with town council.
Those are public record.
No, they're not.
So he has not issued you a memo then.
They are not they are, sorry, they are.
Their attorney-client privilege.
Yeah.
As an attorney, I can avoid their attorney-client privilege documents. What the chair is trying to convey is you may not have applied for that residence above the garage for an ADU. That is fact, because the ADU statute didn't exist at that time. The ADU statute has now been approved and is applicable throughout the state, and the residence you have above the garage now satisfy all the requirements of a protected ADU. Therefore, your property already has a protected ADU on it. And by the advice of council, you cannot apply for a second protected ADU on the property.
And so you just decided to have us all come here to tell us that rather than just sending us a memo?
We have, by the open public laws, we have to, it was continued public hearing.
So honestly, that's just quite rude. If you were gonna spring that on us, you could have just sent that ahead of time. We still understand we have to come here to public hearing. You request us to send things ahead of time. Why wouldn't you send us things ahead of time? That's extremely unprofessional. client privilege and no client privilege. You just can't spring that on us and then expect to take it as straight face value. That's ridiculous.
If you're interested in applying for this ADU, you have to go to the ZBA to actually ask for a variance
We
for a
we
second.
need this opinion in writing. We're entitled to that.
I don't think that you are.
You absolutely are.
So,
You can't just say the guy said this and not provide us the information. Doesn't work that way.
I think you're entitled to, I mean, we're obligated, or I should say the planning board is obligated to issue a decision, either, approving or conditionally approving or denying the application. And so obviously that becomes a public record. And you're certainly sort of, I think it's reasonable, you have a right to kind of reasonably expect sort of a clear explanation of why it would be denied, which I think you've kind of already gotten. But you're not entitled to necessarily see what, the communications are between.
We'll see. I disagree with that. Because you're a public entity. I don't think that client privilege extends as far as we think it does. We'll see about that.
In any event, so we have.
Actually, I'm sorry.
Please go ahead.
I mean, I can't speak for the board, but just to kind of give kind of to step back a second, just see it in the broader perspective too. I think the whole objective of these bylaws of the ADU rules and so forth is that you're allowed to have obviously a single family house on a property, and then you can have one ADU on the property, one kind of additional dwelling unit or accessory dwelling unit, which in some cases is attached to the house, in other cases it's a freestanding thing. But generally, like one more is all you get, and so that's kind of I think a moral, a legal, and kind of moral principle that you get the house, you get one more, and that's all you get. So I think there's a broader principle, which I think then the bylaw kind of makes it specific and makes the board's decision defensible. But there's also just kind of a very broader kind of common sense point of view here is that on one single family property, you only get sort of one additional accessory dwelling unit allowed on the property, which I think is kind of a common sense. I think that the law kind of also backs that up. That's the one
Totally disagree with that whole statement.
So you have a couple options. If you'd like to withdraw the application and apply for a variance, you can. If not, the board will rule that it is under the law. Since there's an existing accessory dwelling unit, we don't have the review to work with it, to do a site plan review for a site.
Yeah, we have 2 minutes to confirm. Thank you, sir.
And it's actually, sorry, I mean, maybe just, I don't, you might already be aware of this, but I mean, obviously, if it's a thing where you want to appeal the decision, then obviously it makes sense to allow the board to deny it, because you can't appeal it, that's been denied. On the other hand, if you're planning to like reapply, or you want to give yourself more flexibility, it might be more logical to withdraw it, because if the board denies it, then sometimes the rule is that you can't reapply with the same project within a certain span of time.
Yeah, 2 years.
So,
Yeah.
you know better than I do. So.
No, I don't know about that. Yeah. I agree with the 2 years. Yeah. All right, can I just?
What if the stove,
Through the chair, if you could identify who you are. Sorry.
Michael Mattern, the owner of the house.
Okay, thank you.
What if the stove just came out? That would change everything and we could proceed.
Really, wouldn't that be kind of unethical? Because really you're looking at having 3 dwelling units on the property. No. Not at all.
The tenant's
Take out the
willing to
stove.
take out the stove.
And that's,
And that it would no longer be a unit.
no. I think you have to talk to the building commissioner about that.
But
Well,
I think they need to reapply in that case. But I think that it might be something to check with town council and the building commissioner. I think you'd want to reapply with that condition kind of satisfied.
Are we up against a deadline that you have to make a decision, or can we ask for an extension to the next meeting?
What did we decide? What is August?
Yeah, I mean, there is a deadline, but I think it's up to the planning board, but I think there's also kind of a principle that, you applied under sort of a current condition. I'm not entirely sure if it's appropriate to kind of make condition changes on the fly under an ongoing public hearing. I just feel some hesitation about that. I guess I'm not an attorney, but I would feel hesitation about, trying to sort of make quick adjustments. Okay, is it okay now and so forth?
My request would be that we just allow a little time to think about what our recourse of action is, and I'd like to just ask the board to let us come back in 2 weeks at the next hearing.
I think that our next meeting is August 17th.
Oh, whenever the next meeting.
I think what we're going to run into is we would have potentially run into a deadline issue on the application itself.
But we can extend that on
If you're
cooperatively,
willing
correct?
to, sure, yeah, absolutely.
We would like to do that, please.
Yeah, well, I mean, that, if both sides are willing to, I mean, I don't think the planning board is obligated to extend the deadline, but it is commonly done, of course. If both sides agree to extend the deadline to maybe, you know, extend it to maybe like, I don't know, mid-September, like approximately a month beyond what it currently is, or something like that. Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to rush into a decision tonight. I'd appreciate the time to have time to confirm my plans.
We wouldn't expect that. You know, I apologize if I didn't have information for you, Katie. We are constrained by some public hearing issues. The board hasn't had a chance to have any of that conversation. So, any questions from any other questions from the applicant? Any questions from the board? I have a lot.
So you're requesting an extension of the hearing.
I would appreciate that, yes.
Okay. Could you talk a little bit more about the purpose of the extension?
Yeah, the purpose of the extension is you just, in public, explain to us that we have an ADU already. I disagree with that statement. I don't think you can just decide that's an ADU, and I want to have time to confer with our council regarding that matter. I don't think that's an unreasonable request, especially when you didn't forewarn us of that decision. And we received no correspondence to that fact. Thank you.
I have a question.
So, hold on, I'm not public yet, sorry. Tag?
Well, I just want to, I think in terms of helping move it along and providing clarity, I have a question, and I'm not sure who can answer it, maybe nobody. That's been mentioned by the applicant a couple of times that per longstanding Duxbury tradition in our prior bylaws, a structure that didn't contain a stove wouldn't be considered habitable. Is that relevant to the new protected use ADU definition?
Yes.
I would say, from experience in other jurisdictions, typically that is the tipping factor of an ADU.
But
You know, I'm not a legal expert in Duxbury, but
right. Well, then that's why I bring it up, because this is not a Duxbury definition, it's a state definition, a protected use ADU. That's really the operative question. So I think it needs to be determined by the board.
And I can add that if you don't have a stove, it's not an ADU. It has to actually be a certain size and has to have a stove and a cooktop.
From my experience in other towns, if it's no kitchen, it's just an addition at that point.
Can you still rent something? Anything else from the board on this particular? In addition to this, there's also, there was an issue about the conditioned room, unconditioned room last time, and that some of us were concerned about that and how that was defined and so on. And the building commissioner said that because it's noted on the plan as unconditioned, it is. However, if you did some digging, if you were to do some digging, you might find that that could be argued against. So I would actually like clarification with the building commissioner with that, and to learn a little bit more about how that's figured. Because I don't really understand why anybody would have a wet season in Massachusetts.
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yep, Tag, go ahead.
It appears through some research, and I again qualify this that I'm not a lawyer, the definition of conditioned space in 780 CMR relies specifically on the ability of the space to maintain temperature ranges, 50 degrees Fahrenheit during the heating season, minimum, and 85 degrees Fahrenheit during the cooling season. Whereas unconditioned space has a different temperature standard, 68 degrees during the heating season or 80 degrees during the cooling season. So unconditioned space is very clear. It's mechanical space. Conditioned space is very clear, climate controlled. But it seems that the boundary fundamentally rests on the thermal management of the space, and it has to do with the amount of boundaries and openings and things like that. And we obviously have to rely on our building commissioner to perform that analysis.
Any other thoughts or questions?
I would rely on the building commissioner on that one. If he determines that the unconditioned space is not applicable for the gross square floor area, I'd rely on his expertise. However, also my understanding is if it was approved as an unconditioned room, and if it is later conditioned or heated, they're open to fines and be forced to remove that and be converted back to an unconditioned room. I mean, you can't get the approval of the ADU as an unconditional room basis and then a year or two now finish it to make it a conventional room. You would be subject to fines potentially having to rip out and put it back in unconventional. But I'd like some clarification. But that would be my thought.
Anything else?
No, I agree with Matt that, you know, we can't necessarily rule in as ourselves as the board on what someone is going to do in the future or could do. The restrictions lie with non-conformity that we have bylaws to protect.
Right, here, no, they're just, we want to hear from the public, go ahead.
Richard Egan, 169 Chestnut Street. I guess I just have one question about the garage. There's been tenants there for 10 years, close to 10 years. If you take the stove out, where do the tenants go? There's two people living there now.
What's it talking about?
There's two people living there now.
That's not in our purview, I can't answer that.
But I mean, what do you?
You talk to the building commissioner. So,
There's one woman living there now who's been living there for a couple of years till her husband passes away. We can remove that stove and that's it. She can do what she wants to do. She can move out or stay there. But this is just to get clarification on what we can do. We've been planning this thing for 3 years. It all depends on our daughter selling her home and buying our home and moving it. And that's a separate issue, but that's on the table. That has to happen right away. So we can tonight go home and mention to the woman, you're not gonna have a stove. And she can either say, fine, or stay there or move out. What I don't understand is this seems to be the wrong thing to do to provide a unit for us to live. We have to build this house. We have to do it, but it's just a question of fitting it legally according to you people. You have to approve whatever this happens. It's inevitable, but we're running out of time to do this before the winter, and it's we're just coming to you, and you've given us the wrong reasons for not building this thing, and I just don't understand it. It's this poor woman's gonna be out the house if she doesn't want the stove. So you're throwing her out you're not letting us build what we will build eventually. And it's not making any sense to me.
Well, the rule is you can only have two.
You gotta speak up a little bit.
You can only have two dwelling units on a property. Right now, you're trying to ask, you've asked for a third one. So if you abide by the rules, then we don't have to, then we don't have to have this discussion, but it's up. You need to, we're going to vote to continue this as you requested. Right now, the town council is advising us that this is a moot application. So, the other discussion? Anything else from the public?
Yes, so I have, from Duxbury Town Hall.
sorry.
Oh, sorry, Megan Lewis, 167 Chestnut. So I'm the direct abutter. So it says accessory dwelling unit, a self-contained housing unit inclusive of sleeping, cooking, and sanitary facilities on the same lot as the principal dwelling. So building the second accessory unit would turn the property into a multi-family lot, which is not permitted by right.
Correct.
So how is this even,
Well, that's what we're saying. It's not,
but
it's not feasible.
even if they take the stove out, they could put a cooktop in and they still rent it. And I'm still living next to a multi-family lot.
As of right now, we are.
I mean, you saw how upset the other guy was,
yeah,
and
yeah,
mine is even worse. It is worse.
I understand. I'm saying right now, this is what we're saying is that it's not feasible. So they've asked to continue this conversation.
And just to chime into the chair, we're gonna ask our town council for an opinion as well, because of the effect of just taking out the stove.
Yeah.
You may still, without a stove, still may have a rental unit, which would then still require a variance. We're not saying that they can't do it and add this third structure, but in order, it's not a protected ADU where they don't have the right under the law to come in here and apply. If they still say they want to go forward, they would then have to apply for a variance to the zoning board of appeals and go through that process, and it's not the zone, it's not the planning board purview.
Right.
And I think the purpose of this continuance is they're gonna discuss and likely come back and say, we're gonna take the stove out. At the same point, we are obligated as a board to have our own legal counsel give us their interpretation of the law and what the effect of taking that stove out has on the existing spot of the garage.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Public? Sure. Because I live on Chestnut Street too. And I have a 3-story barn and I'm interested in putting an AD unit as well. So is.
Could you
Once again,
identify
Tracy
yourself,
Cobb.
please? Hey, excuse me, please, through the chair. Thank you. Go ahead.
Tracy Kopp, I live at 88 Chestnut.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes. So I'm just curious too about, septic systems, whether we obviously know what constitutes an ADU unit. That's law now. And then we've got the Duxbury zoning laws, which say that you can only have one on there. So obviously it's like a sticky, wicket. What for the septic systems too? Is there any ruling about that? Is it all supposed to be on one septic system? Or can you put two in?
You might recommend give our.
I can answer that.
A call.
Okay.
And he'll walk you through it all.
Yeah,
Actually, for that particular question, you have to talk to the other board of health office for that question, yeah, but I can help you with some of that.
yeah. I didn't know Why if did that they had any need time, two, but why I do they didn't know need two separate?
It has to do with the capacity of your existing.
Yeah. But if they only have the one house and then they're just putting the ADU, why would they need two separate septics for that? Wouldn't it
That's
just
a
be
question for the board
one?
of health office.
Okay,
If the existing system doesn't have the capacity, you put a second one in.
Yeah,
And you can do it too, so for single house.
or you can just increase one.
to match up your.
Like if you added a second, it's all based on bedrooms. If you had all
Yeah.
like a house with one bedroom and a bunch of dens, you really only need capacity for the one bedroom. So even if you renovated your house and added extra bedrooms on your plans, then you need more capacity.
Yeah,
And so if
I had
there's
to
only-
do that,
If there's
yeah.
only septic for a one bedroom, it doesn't have to be added to that one. You can do a separate. So whether they're ADU or not,
So it doesn't-
it's
Okay.
it's not applicable.
Matthew, if you have further questions about the ADU, you can reach out to Matthew.
Yeah.
Walk us through.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Otherwise, okay. So, the applicant is requested to continue continue the hearing So I will entertain a motion to reduce.
So yeah, we just need them to sign this form here and then I guess a quorum of the planning board to sign and date it as well. It's pretty straightforward. And then I guess you can do the vote simultaneously to the vote to agree to extend the deadline. And then I guess just vote to continue the hearing, I guess.
We want to we vote to extend it that to this, we please include a specific dates.
Oh, yeah, it'll be to,
Well, let's look at the calendar. So
Yeah.
make sure that it follows a planning board, like a.
Yeah,
days
Monday.
after our planning board meeting.
yeah, maybe like, I don't know, 4 or 5 days after, just to give enough time to generate the decision. Does that sound reasonable?
Right, so I think our next meeting is August 27th. Sorry, 17th.
Yeah, if you could push it to September, just in case we're not ready at the next, please.
So we have.
Like the 14th would be the next one, in September. The second. September 14th.
And does that give you enough time, September 14th?
If you could just put it, I'd say
Plus-
just the
plus-
decisions, yeah, so
It's like-
September 30th, if you wouldn't mind, or whatever that end of that work week is at September.
So our meeting's on the 14th, and the Friday would be the 18th.
That'd be great.
Second. Okay, so Friday, September 18th.
Yeah, I mean, if they're willing to do September 30th, that might be. What's up? I don't see any, I guess I don't see any harm.
There's no harm.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
So September 30th, 2026.
So then you're saying the motion would be helpful to have the date within the motion.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess I'll just,
While Matt's doing that, I think it's prudent to allow, there's lots of money that happens that is, I think, unknown to a lot of folks that aren't actively in a building project, between architecture and engineering and surveying and all these things that have happened over however many years you've been doing this. So, personally, I think it's allowing this extension is prudent on our part, just to not allow them to waste them. Allow them to figure it out, and think about it.
Yeah, we can sign it now. I can have the applicant sign that now.
All
Yeah.
right, so can we continue our?
Our vote, yes.
Our motion. We're still motioning.
Motion, so I guess we have to motion to close the public hearing, so we can do that. Okay.
So I guess it's only one time.
Yeah.
All right, so,
I just gotta have them sign it.
well, don't we have to vote on it first?
I think, probably doesn't matter. I think in theory, they're supposed to request it or sign it before the planning board votes to extend it.
Oh, okay.
But that might be sort of a nitpicky. So when you go the applicants. Yeah, you just sign it.
Yeah, you seen something black.
Sure.
Yeah, I think based on experience, as long as the applicant agrees and the forms are in motion, we can take the motion here at the same time. So I'll move that we extend the deadline for this application for the ADU at 161 Chestnut Street to September 30th, 2026.
Second,
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a roll call vote, starting with Tag.
Tag Carpenter, aye.
Lawrence, aye.
Matthew Ray, aye.
Christian Rapp, aye.
Steve Camp, aye.
Taylor Doyle, aye.
Thank you.
Right, thanks, I appreciate it. Great, okay. Sorry, so you guys.
Continue the hearings.
So,
No, the hearing,
Oh, the hearing.
to August 17th.
Oh, we have to extend the application and the hearing.
correct.
Just continue. the
Yeah,
hearing.
it did here, yeah.
All right, so do you want to do that?
Sure, so I'd like to make a motion then to continue the hearing for the application for the ADU at 161 Chestnut Street to September 30th, 2027.
No, August
No,
17th.
August 17th.
Oh, August 17th, okay.
Well. Oh,
Oh, that's the hearing,
then-
yeah.
then- then
That's our
on
next
the
meeting.
18th, we could continue it to the next.
Yeah,
Correct,
exactly,
yes.
yeah.
No, I understand.
Thank you. So my motion as amended to August 17th, 2027.
Second.
So, yes, thank you.
Got your second. All right, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll start with Tag for roll call vote.
Tag Carpenter, aye.
Lawrence, aye.
Matthew Ray, aye.
Christian Rapp, aye.
Steve Camp, aye.
Sorry, Taylor Doyle, aye. Too many things at once.
You can blame me for that. Guess I just need 4 signatures, I guess. Four.
All right, well, thank you for coming. Appreciate that.
That does it up.
That's it.
Thank you.
All right, up next is agenda agenda 5, discuss the fiscal year 2028 planning budget.
We closed that section of the hearing now, I guess.
Yeah, you continue the hearing, so you can't discuss it now because it continues to, was it August 17th? So you have to wait until,
So we've
or at least
like,
as a board, as a quorum of the board, you can't discuss it.
like closed it for today, but continue.
Exactly, yeah, so the hearing is still, I mean, yeah, basically the hearing is still going. I mean, sometimes for convenience, we'll say like, you know, like the first public hearing was this date and the second public hearing, but in reality, it's all one long public hearing that keeps on going. But when it's being sort of opened and closed is when the board can actually discuss it as a forum of the board.
Well, not that this is substantive, but to confirm, we are gonna get Amy, our town council's opinion as to the effect of removing a stove. Because I think that is
Yeah.
gonna be germane to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Yes. I'd like to know what town council's opinion is on that.
Would she weigh in on the unconditioned space too?
She did a little bit. It's, we have to figure. We want to get clarification from her on how do we have confidential communication to our quorum.
Well, I think we can discuss the unconditional space issue without talking about this particular project as a general concept.
Yeah.
And in generally, we have the right to approve things conditionally to strengthen the position of either an unconditioned space or still remaining outside of a secondary portion of a specific structure. So that could be something in any application we receive that we could add conditions that strengthen that position. So something to think about as we move forward.
Thank you. Okay, fiscal year 2028 planning budget. Take a quick look at that. I may not thank you for putting that together. I think one or two things that I had questions about had to do with looking at so Emily added the legal costs, and I don't think that that's included in the budget. So Emily and Matthew,
So we have a line item that is just called other technical and professional expenses or something like that.
Yeah.
And all of town council's fees come out of that.
Okay, and so is
So
that
we go over,
yeah, so is that the one that ends in 5318 typically?
I believe so.
So Emily, is the attachment to the agenda with the 34,000 and change total, is that the planning board's legal cost for the year?
Yeah.
Okay,
For the past, like 4 years, from 2022 to,
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't look at the dates.
yeah, 2022 to
Oh.
2023.
If you go,
I guess I needed my readers, yeah.
I'll read that loud. So from 2022 was $225.
Oh, I see, yep.
223 was 4,400, 24 was 5,700, 2025 was 13,000, and we're already up to 4,500. Now, part of that was because council was there with us at town meeting. And there was a lot of planning leading up to that meeting. So kind of knowing this and anticipating, well, do you think we need? How much do we put in? We typically go over. We know that there's probably gonna be bylaws for the next couple of years that involves planning for town meeting. Would it make sense to make the number closer to 10,000 and 7,000?
I could certainly, make the request. It is part of the planning board's budget, right? Yeah. So I can certainly make the request. I mean, at some level, it doesn't matter that much whether, how do I say this? Like whether it's actually in the budget or whether we just go over, because either way, the town is paying about the same, the town is paying the same amount, then I highly doubt, I mean, Emily, you can correct me, but I doubt that, in the past. That, that they've ever said like, oh, we're not gonna let town council answer that question, because you guys in the planning board have you've gone over the budget. I think that would be unlikely. So, but still, it seems logical, if we know it's probably gonna be a certain amount, it seems logical that we should budget for that. So I can certainly make the request, in the budget. I can't promise that it'll be approved, because of course, some of the committees and people look at the budget would prefer to keep it lower instead of like.
And then the second thing I wanted to raise was was making sure that we have coverage for consultants in case we need them. So, when it comes to writing bylaws, sometimes it's helpful to have money towards technical expertise. Especially since we're looking at doing recodification next year, which would potentially be we'd be looking at hiring somebody like general code. To actually do the drafting and then putting it online for us. And I thought we had a number for that in here last year. We had $20,000 or $30,000.
Yeah, that's not a budgeted.
It's not.
It's from a town meeting article.
Oh, okay. All right, then, never mind.
Yeah, what's that?
Just for the zoning recodification.
Yeah, so it's not in our normal budget. I mean, I guess it's in an account somewhere, I suppose, but it's not really in our normal planning budget.
Yeah, because that's similar to what's on the bottom. It's from 2018, but it says update zoning bylaws, and there was a special article.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
Well,
And then there are three more pages beyond that, for kind of weird accounts, which are sometimes old grants or I suppose, and all kinds of stuff that didn't bother me.
well, with that thought though, does that mean that we would need money from annual town meeting, 2026 to have the money to pay for a consultant in 2027?
We still have money in that account.
Do you know how much it is?
Not off the top of my head, but it's kind of significant.
Yeah, it's insignificant or significant?
It is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I think if we have like 20 to 30, access to 20 to 30,000, that would be good. Thank you.
Yeah, it might just be a question whether how much we can move it or how much flexibility we have in, like if we wanted to hire a new consultant, how much flexibility we have to use the money for that purpose, or is it only for recodification?
It's for zoning recodification.
Okay, yeah.
So I guess my question is, so we have these funds that are available and they were appropriated through a town meeting article that was approved.
But only for recodification.
Oh, but only for recodification. So if that being the case, how did, that doesn't show up in our budget, so I guess how do we account for what was budgeted and then what we spent against that budget?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I guess we can look at all. I mean, there are three other pages of all kinds of accounts and stuff. Some of them are from these grants, like I guess the MVP 2.0 grant. We've got money there, but they're all for particular purposes. And then some of them are even escrow accounts or things, or it gets complicated. I mean, maybe I should give you guys all 4 pages of that, and I got from finance, but it gets kind of confusing with a lot of those things. But yeah, there are these various accounts kind of hanging out there. I think there's even the one for the Washington Street sidewalk project, because for some reason, I guess maybe the planning department helped write up the application to get that grant, but really it's DPW that's been spending all. I mean, it's more of a DPW project, so they're the ones that have been spending all the money. We just pay the invoices. So sometimes it can get pretty complicated with these different kinds of accounts we've got. I don't know if you want to.
What is the question?
So it sounds to me, we've got the budget here that has all of our regular expenses.
That's what we can change. The other accounts we don't really have.
We don't, right, so it almost seems like we would have a series of budgets.
That's a good way to
restricted purpose
Yeah,
budgets.
those are the ones we can kind of change, and the other ones, obviously, like if we're lucky enough to get a grant, to apply for a grant and get it, then we kind of get that automatically. And then, of course, if we have a special, like maybe town meeting article to ask for money, then that's a different story as well. But as far as the regular budgetary process, yeah, those are kind of like the main primary planning department accounts. I think that's a fair way to describe it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, would you be interested in seeing the next pages 2 through 4?
Here's the can of worms and I've got the can opener. Personally, I would, but I wouldn't want to necessarily impose that on everyone else.
Would you mind putting that in the next meeting of October? And then we can take a look?
Yeah, I can try to find those.
Thank you.
Oh, and Kristen, I apologize, I wasn't able to get those other, you had asked for some more budget information, I think in an email, I wasn't able to get it done today, I'll try to do it in the next few days. Yeah, unfortunately, the next few days are probably busy too, but I'll do my best to get to that eventually, I apologize.
That's right. Thank you. All right, anything else in the budget? Okay.
I
Next,
guess one more thing, I'm sorry,
go ahead.
one more thing I wanted to mention, I guess, kind of based on my experience from last year, of like kind of having a budget. Discussing with you folks and some of the sort of the kind of the hopeful things that were in there. And then, of course, meeting with like finance and the various committees and advisory committees and all these people. You know, of course, for a lot of the basic stuff, you know, it's fine. And, you know, office supplies are never going to be a big deal, I think. But for some other things, I think like if the planning board or the planning department hopes to kind of get allocations, we kind of need to sort of lay the groundwork by starting to kind of lobby or advocate for ourselves or whatever, you know, sometimes like months or even years beforehand. Like it's a process of like kind of talking to the different power brokers and letting them know, oh, this is really a really pressing need, and kind of demonstrating why that's the case and all these other kinds of things. So I guess just kind of be aware that, you know, sometimes for certain things, especially kind of for the more ambitious things, you really do need to kind of be within those kind of circles of advocating for, you know, sometimes laying the groundwork for even years beforehand, so that people are convinced or persuaded that, oh, this is a really pressing need, and here's the reason why it is. And so, I mean, sometimes, of course, it helps if there's an event or just kind of things that are emerging that are kind of focusing people's minds on it. So obviously, like we had the blizzard a few months ago, it's like 4 months, whatever it was now. And so like that kind of made a lot of people think, gosh, you know, we need to think more about emergency management systems and stuff. So, and then, you know, if we have a flood, then that'll help people think about seawalls and all those kinds of things.
But do you think there's anything that the planning board in particular should be concerned about and should be advocating for in our budget?
Not really. Not that I can think of, but you guys might, you know, there's something. But I honestly, I can't think of anything. I mean, I know last year there was the discussion about the idea of like adding additional, I guess it was like an environmental planner, I think it was, which didn't really go forward. And I think, yeah, I guess there's just nothing in my mind that really jumps out at the moment.
So Matthew, that is still something that we would like. So is that, you know, that would presumably be within this budget, right?
If you want it to be within the budget, I guess we can propose it. I guess my caution is that it didn't seem to get any momentum last time. And so I guess that's kind of an example of where maybe one needs to kind of lay the groundwork and kind of persuade the power brokers, for lack of a better term, sort of the power brokers that is necessary. And I think, I mean, it seems like the Coastal Resiliency Task Force sort of wanted it too, but it didn't seem as though kind of some of these committees and finance and stuff were really sort of, it didn't seem like they were persuaded of kind of the urgency or the need. And so I'm not sure what the solution is to that. But I think if we just put it in there again and say, oh, we're asking again like we did last year, the response would kind of be, well, you know, we denied this last year and nothing's really changed.
Yeah, nothing's
Well, just to
So
clarify,
it's hard.
so I think it was 3 years ago, Scott Casarani and I went to the finance committee to talk to them about the budget, and they said, where's your request for an environmental planner? And we said, we've been asking for that for 5 years.
Yeah.
We said, no, but wait, you're asking, are you interested? We're very interested. We have your support. And they're like, put it in. And then we had the two budgets, the two override budgets. And so there was not an appetite to add that. I think they were both in there, but there wasn't an appetite to fund them. So I think it would be good to go ahead and ask for an environmental planner to help with that. There's so much work that needs to be done. We're very lucky that the Coastal Resiliency Task Force has taken on a ton. We have some really very talented committee members right now. There's one guy, Brian Walsh, who's retired and he's been writing grants and getting money and measuring the water levels in the Bluefish River, and that's really not.
It's been like,
We've got a
going into
volunteer.
the muck and the mud, and
He does.
it's like, it's a serious weapon there, he's.
What'd you say?
That's not within our purview, is it? Like, fall on us?
So, yeah, we all take turns capturing water, it's Bluefish.
Yeah,
So.
he's very dedicated, yeah.
He's very dedicated, and then I think the other fellow saying, he's been great at like just bringing one thing in our. Yeah.
And also the Norway.
Yeah, they're
There's so
just
knowledge
a
there.
really great team working on making course is pretty knowledge. It's a really great team. Yet they're all volunteers and there's only so much that they can do, and we need somebody who can do the professional side of it and who can manage the work and get things, support them and get them support for.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, and I'm certainly not, I'm certainly not trying to sort of minimize the need. I think it's definitely justified.
Yeah.
I think definitely it would benefit the town greatly. But it did seem like my last experience, it was just, and I think it's probably just that the town has been so short of funding, and there was the overrides and all that kind of stuff, that it was, if anything, things were going the opposite direction where everybody had to reduce and cut back. And my guess is that it'll be difficult this year too, given just the larger economic realities, it'll be hard. But then again, I suppose, like, on the other hand, if you don't, speak out and advocate, then of course you won't get it at all. So maybe it makes sense to keep putting it in every year so that we keep it on the radar screen. So, and so we keep saying to them, hey, we believe this is important. And yeah.
Is the process that the environmental planning gets added to the overall town budget that gets voted on at town meeting?
Yeah, I think it's.
I see, and then if it got approved, then it gets allocated to the planning department budget, is that how it works?
Well, I'm trying to remember from last year. I mean, I think there's a process where the different committees, there's what is the fiscal advisory committee and what's the finance committee? There's two different committees or working groups. And so they kind of get their hands on it, and it goes to the finance department and all the select board, all kinds of other people. And so at some point, it gets split into like, what was it, 5A and 5B? And then one part's kind of the core, the other part's more optional. And so at some point, when I went through this last year, it wasn't that long ago, but it feels like a long time ago. That it definitely did get taken. It got removed at some point. Like, I don't think it went to town meeting. I think it got removed at some point in the process. And I mean, that's their prerogative. They have to do what they think is right. I mean, it's always very difficult. It's hard. So I think they did what they thought was best. But yeah, I think at some point it did get, that funding for the environmental plan, it did get taken out, long before town meeting.
So in terms of laying the groundwork, as you mentioned, numbers carry weight. And would it be possible to, for example, quantify the value of the effort the volunteers as if it were a budget line that was avoided, to point out the level of effort that's required today? Would it be possible to identify sort of opportunity costs by not having a planner? We end up having to pay consultants, et cetera. Can we break this down and actually justify it on financial or fiscal terms?
That's something, could you ask, maybe ask Lenore, say like, if you were to monetize the amount of time that the Coastal Conservancy Task Force, CRTF, is doing, what would it be? How much for your time? How much did the grant bring in? Things like that. I think.
But might it be easier to do that, maybe not at least initially, not in terms of dollars, but perhaps in terms of hours? Maybe think of it that way, and then, from there, you could monetize it somehow, however you decide afterwards.
But the only thing that I would caution for, as far as saying it will remove the need for consultants, you're gonna restrict, if that's, we're gonna say these are the things that we need them to be able to do, it's gonna restrict your talent pool of who can come in. Because let's say you need someone to be able to go take samples and be qualified and take samples. How many of those people live within an application distance of Duxbury? And you know what I mean? So I wouldn't say that it's going to remove the need for consultants altogether, because if you need someone, if you need to pay someone to take samples, if we're not hiring someone that's qualified to do it, that would not be applicable. So just cautioning the other side of the argument.
Yeah, I wasn't
Sorry,
suggesting
back up.
about.
I mean, why would I be asking Lenore to monetize or to kind of estimate the work of the CRTF and money? I mean, is the point of that to demonstrate the amount of work that the volunteers are already doing?
Like if there were no volunteers and that's work still needed to get done, this is how many hours we'd feel like, because one of the questions would be, why do we need an environmental planner? Is there enough work for an environmental planner? And the answer would be, because there's these volunteers that are currently doing it, but they're not always going to be doing it. So at some point, there's going to be 40 hours a week worth of work for someone.
Yeah, okay, that's, yeah.
Any other questions about budget? No? Okay. All right, moving on to agenda item 6, which is the best bylaw, the best update. We've just been plodding along. I don't know that there's anything to report on.
We continue to chug through. And with many edits, we debate the changes that we've made and adding additional changes in, making sure we get this covered, and as well as we can, Madam Chair, I would just emphasize too, this has been an extraordinary effort. This goes to TAG, this goes to you, this goes to Jim as well. More so by a far measure than myself. A tremendous amount of work. This is going to be something that I think would, if it does pass, would be of great service to the town. And I think we would be very well served to have this in there, in our bylaw. And it provides a great deal of protection in the event that one of these does get proposed for the town. And so I just want to, say that this has been a great effort. It's been a very worthwhile effort. And I think the town again would be very well served if we were to pass this in its eventual form.
Sure. One of the things we are looking at now is just reorganizing it a bit to make sure that it makes sense. Because you've got different people working on it, pulling from different bylaws, we're trying to piece it together so it makes sense. And that's adding more time. Yes. The time and effort. We're getting there.
And what's the goal as far as wrapping it up?
Was June. Everybody told me that was ambitious to start with. I was very optimistic. I think one of the other things too we learned is we were doing 45 minutes in the morning, like one morning a week, and we found that it's just easier for this group to get together for 2 hours and just power through it all together as opposed to trying to work on little things. So that's been some lesson learned as we've gone along. But I think, oh gosh, I would hope by the end of August. I know my off space again, you see.
We work better when we have a deadline, I think. And so if we were to put out there that we needed to get this done by the end of August, then I think our efforts should be focused on getting it done by then. We are in the middle of vacation season, of course, as well, so that adds to the challenge.
I believe we're on we're tentatively on the select board agenda, I think, for August 17th, is that right? So
Yeah.
go before them.
We'll have a good idea of what's in it by then.
Yeah, I guess my caution is, it seems like, I guess it could be done, and my caution is just that for August 17th, it looks like we're gonna have a new application public hearing. And then this one has been continued. Maybe that's it, I guess. So maybe it won't be too bad. It just might kind of be a busy night already, but I guess it's probably feasible. Well, we'll see what happens, I guess. But I guess it's
look like
feasible. I mean, it may also depend how long the select board is going and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but we're gonna do our stuff first and then go over to them.
Thank you. All right, next up was to discuss progress and prioritization of plan 740. How do we feel about tackling 5 topics, 5 items today? So kind of pass it over to now. Taylor, this is not very used to 2 a.m. This
Yeah,
is early.
we going. We gotta solve it all tonight.
Yeah. Lauren, you have to be out by 8. Yeah. And maybe you want to shoot for at least 55.
Okay, I'm good, that's fine.
You know, we doing that. All right, so. Yeah, and Matthew, thank you for the direction. Before we jump into that, thank you. That's to be made. Thank you for the director's report on the discussion helpful this week when we're tackling the ADUs, just to have that information in there, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean,
I second it, thank you.
it is, I try to be as, I guess I'm a sort of a writer, so I try to be as precise and thorough as possible. And actually, it's kind of good for me to force me to be familiar with not just the projects, but the issues before the, issues involved and so forth. So yeah, it's a good experience for me to spend the time to write those up, to be prepared then for the meetings. So yeah, thanks, but I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so where did we leave off?
I really do have the like the Excel file.
It's
The actual-
26.
Computer, is it all there?
It's like 27 was that. If you look at row 27, the highlighted.
You're right. Type this action. Or actually, maybe just write it. Or just write it by hand. Okay, just type it. I'm just such a slow like this.
What do we think? 27, was that our last one, maybe?
I think that is in, I think the last one, sorry, I think the last one is in there. It's just some of the earlier ones that are still empty, but I think the ones we did most recently have been typed in.
Okay.
So whatever is the blank, the next blank one.
Which would be 28. Okay, so open space and recreation, protect Duxbury's water, evaluate climate change impacts of both surface waters and the aquifer, and develop long-term strategies to protect these resources. Explore adapting the wetlands protection overlay district into a climate resilience district. Interesting. Okay, so then there was a note from 2023, but this would be something that the CRTF would want to work on. So I would second that. That would be. And then Matthew, we've been looking at rewriting some of the wetlands bylaw anyway. Do you know if there would be any specific changes to WPOD? Wetland.
Sorry, let me try to pull this out. Sure.
I think that district was made before the wetlands bylaw was in place.
So I said that again.
I think the WPOD was in the zoning bylaw before the Wetlands Act was in place, so I don't know if it's really used anymore. I don't think conservation looks at it.
Is that something that we could maybe ask them to take a look at? Is a climate resilience district something that they would have any interest in?
So we're on explore adopting the wetlands protection overlay district into a climate resilience district.
Yes.
I mean, I guess it seems like it would be a major task. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe it is something, I mean, it seems like with a lot of these things, the people who did this, I think they're certainly their intentions were good, but the result is they kind of forced in a lot of tasks on sort of future generations, and now we're kind of stuck with, oh my God, this is just like. So I think maybe we just say, yeah, if the CRTF wants to collaborate on it, they can, but I'm just not sure. We've already got so much on our plate, I don't know.
Could we break it down into like a smaller bite as far as like provide us a sample of a climate resilience district? You know, because like, what does that even mean in regards to how that would differ from the current regulation? Because to just like people use buzzwords of like, oh, it's an innovation district, but it's like, is that area really gonna provide innovation? You know, what are what in a bylaw change are we looking to actually implement?
Right, why wouldn't we do that?
Yeah,
What's
like
the
what,
benefit?
exactly, and is it just a change in title versus a change in substitute?
Yeah, well, I can speak to that a little bit. It's my understanding that by designating it as a climate resiliency zone, it opens up the possibility for additional funding. Resiliency grants are available. We can't access that money now because we don't have a climate resiliency zone. We could take our WPOD and say, hey, look, this really is our climate resiliency zone, and they might accept that, but it would be cleaner if we just updated our jargon, as you say. But also, as you mentioned, it calls for a gap analysis. You know, do we have places that are vulnerable that are not in wetlands protection? We should look at that. And that's a land use question that I think only the planning board can address.
I agree. I think we could ask, CRTF because Lenore is a marine biologist.
Yeah, oh, sure. I'm not saying we
I think
couldn't.
we could ask them for input on that.
Yeah. But in terms of the law, you know, the definitions of the law,
Yes.
that's our better.
Sure.
Yeah.
Would you mind, making notes to check in with more about that? Please. All right. Should we go on to the next one? Sure. So in Matthew, the request there is, how did you word it?
Just, you know, try to find a similar, what's the phrase? Climate resilience districts bylaw, you know, whether in Massachusetts or somewhere nearby that could be, just to see what the differences are between what we have and what is in a typical bylaw that, as tag is indicating, could assist with funding in various.
Right, thank you. All right, so the next one is O28 is empty space, but it's also, the item number is O252. Protect Duxbury's, I'm sorry, it's the next one, down one, O29. Position Duxbury's coastal economy to remain vibrant and resilient with climate change. Explore voluntary coastal buyback programs for residences and businesses in high hazard or repetitive loss areas. Utilize state funding for the environmental land bill or FEMA coastal buyback program when active. To perform community outreach and engagement with residents in coastal zones and planning for the future. This is a really big.
This is about as big as it gets, really.
Give
Give
me your
one of everything.
Very
It's
expensive.
voluntary. It's voluntary, it's two phrase.
Please give me this.
Right. I can use. Any thoughts on this one?
Oh, it's this already.
This feels like, not a fight, it feels like
That's
I-
the point, yeah.
The way this is worded, it seems like we would, you know, we
It's whatever they say.
as a governmental body would be approaching property owners in climate and coastally affected areas. And we would be asking them, as a government body, are you interested in relinquishing your property for some form of, presumably some form of compensation? And, you know, compensation for which I don't believe we have anything in mind or any source identified. I think that any discussion about things like this would be contingent upon having some kind of plan for what resource would be considered. I mean, there's a bill in the House apparently that's a potential source for this, but until that materializes and we have a better sense of what that actually involves, I think it would be premature to start talking with them about this sort of thing.
well, the
Also for this one, I'm sorry, it looks like for whatever reason, the owner on this one in the owner column, which I admit is hard to keep track of, is actually the CRTF. It's not planning for whatever reason. I don't know how it got into the planning spreadsheet field thing, but I guess just something to be aware of.
Well, as we're supporting it, the question for us is what is the action item we should take to support this? And it sounds like it is a question of identifying residences and businesses in high hazard or repetitive loss areas. That's again, land use, land activity. We have the data. We ought to be able to provide that to CRTF. to constrain this and define it a little bit better.
And are we keeping track of losses that are occurring in these zones?
We don't really have high loss
Yeah, it's
in this area compared
Not
to,
yet.
right,
Yeah.
compared to like situated places on the Cape, workers are just sitting on a, waiting to bring employment.
Outside, maybe down by Garnet, right?
Right.
Currently.
I mean, they had to move the lighthouse, and that,
Yeah.
yeah, but still, that's not,
The barrier issues,
it's the challenge, right?
but in Garnet, probably.
So maybe we just let that one sit with there, yeah.
Well, but Tad, coming back to your point though, so I'm looking at column E where it says perform the community outreach. I think Tad makes a good point, and then before we would do that, we would need to identify the properties, and Tad, I think you correctly identified that that's a land use task, land use obligation, not obligation, but land use task that we would be responsible for. So I think maybe we reword this to say, identify these affected areas, on which we would potentially at some point in the future conduct outreach.
Yeah, or even to your point, the question of, where are these? Or do we have repetitive losses, or what is the exact high risk? And you could even qualify perhaps that the Duxbury Beach Reservation as a business suffers repetitive loss every year because they have to keep rebuilding the beach. That's millions of dollars, That's probably the opposite direction than what is suggested here, where they say, oh, the government just buy it and let it go. But it still may, fall under a funding program.
You may ask a silly question. Is the purpose of this buyback to avoid having to pay, if there is a loss, having to pay for someone to rebuild their house?
I think that's the intention, because at some point, right, Mother Nature wins.
Yeah.
So how do we incentivize people to pull back? But
Yeah, it stems from sorry, Chris, it stems from the federal flood insurance where 3 losses is the limit. You cannot get your house rebuilt a 4th time, and now they've realized that 3 is too many. So they've dropped it down, but basically to once, or they're trying to find a way to describe a zone where even if you have floodplain coverage, you can't get it rebuilt, and I think in terms of Duxbury, it really, for our budget, it bears on infrastructure. If there's somebody hanging on at the end of a long road that we have to maintain water and paving, it's in our interest to convince them that it's not a good place to live. I don't know that we have that. I'm just making up an example.
So what is it that you want us to actually write down in the comments box? Or
I think it's finding a way to track the losses, because that's the first thing you need is the data. And right now, we don't know if we have the data.
do we ever just FEMA track that? Do we know?
Probably.
Only if they're involved.
Is the state? Matthew, I'm gonna ask you, would you mind asking Lenore if she knows?
Busy day.
She's very knowledgeable, I tell you, it's a really very talented team.
So to ask her, sorry, what did I ask her again? What the reserves?
Where the coastal losses are being tracked, or if there's a way to easily find where repetitive losses are occurring in our town.
Yeah, I mean, I think just based on experience, I'm not aware of any repetitive losses. Anybody whose house has been destroyed and they've rebuilt it, I just don't think that happens. So it's really more a question of high hazard, I would think. And obviously we have the whole Webster Island seawall project that's dealing with that now.
And so this would be repetitive losses of the coastline, or areas along the coast. And I assume it's okay if, for some of these questions, if I actually just present these questions or these topics to the CRTF at the next CRTF meeting, actually, because that way we get not just Lenore, but sort of a bunch of people to think about.
Yeah, great. All right, moving on to 31. All right, focus on distinct neighborhood business district-based economic development. Increase residences within and near the the business districts by working with property owners to determine priority underutilized sites for mixed use development. Review current zoning and identify potential modifications either to map, district, or text to encourage the mixed use development desired in these areas.
Sorry, did you skip?
I think one.
Yeah, we skipped
Oh,
there.
I skipped it. Oh, right, okay, we can go to that, okay. Economy, focus on distinct neighborhood business district based economic development.
Yeah, it's actually.
Right,
Yeah,
so
C and
it's-
D are identical. I think it just has to change the color.
Yeah, so call me number one. Identify and activate vacant sites through rehabilitation and infill development to encourage the location of new mixed use development. Okay, vacant sites.
Hmm.
I think if there were many vacant sites eligible for mixed use development, that would have been,
Something would have been.
yeah, I think they would have been developed by this point.
Only one that's you've driven by Brothers recently. You look east on Chestnut Street. Somebody's cut down all the trees there. Right next to adjacent to Brothers.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
there's a.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there is one, yeah.
I would assume that's a family that bought that house and tore it down and rebuilt. I don't know.
But what
Yeah.
about, what's going on with the property next to Bonji's? The train station, not a train
Oh.
station.
Sells the toy trains.
It's the
Yeah.
nursery, it's the nursery, we buy trains.
Yeah.
A multi-purpose
Yeah.
retailer, I guess.
Is there something going on?
I'm wondering if that's a vacant spot that will come up soon.
Sometimes I see flags that says it's open.
I saw something saying that they were closing for good.
Oh, okay.
Well, the property was put up on the market as a single-family home, because that's what it's zoned, I guess. It's in the NV, obviously. But the owner made the comment that he was selling the property and not the business. So, for what it's worth.
Oh.
But yeah, as far as vacant, I really don't think there are any. This kind of sounds like a boilerplate that was picked up from some planning rubric. You know, we don't have vacant properties in neighborhood business districts, to my knowledge. But so it would be more like underutilized, you know. But the point is potential modifications, either to the rules or to the bounds, to essentially create the opportunity for mixed use development. We do have mixed use now. We have retail with apartments above that grandfathered in, but nobody can do new ones. Although we did get that one in Bennett, next to Bennett's, right? Small structure was removed
Oh,
and
that's right, yeah.
mixed use. So, you know, it is happening in the current regime, but, you know, can it be expanded is really the question. And I have mentioned to Matthew Hines and to the chair about a concept for really starting a conversation about this, which is the idea that if the planning department or even planning board members, select board members, contacted neighborhood business district property owners and abutters and suggested to them that there might be a process whereby they could, by consensus amongst themselves, make a decision that they want to rezone some properties that are abutting the neighborhood business district. Maybe somebody wants to open a business in their home, or they're planning a renovation and, you know, they had an idea for a commercial activity and they said, well, I can't do it here. I'm going to move to Waltham and do this, you know, because the town, you know, the opportunities of the residents in the town are constrained by the bylaws of the town. So if there are residents who wish to take opportunity of a zoning expansion, I'd like to see the board find a way to enable that opportunity for them. But it's not something that anybody's going to wave a magic wand and say, oh, we're making the NBs bigger. That's not at all what I'm suggesting. I'm saying it's a mechanism that could be formalized and have defined, you know, communication and timeframes whereby it might take 2 or 3 years to develop a consensus, review options, and eventually propose a revision at town meeting incorporating either a boundary change or a use change in one of the NBs. So a sort of a bottom-up approach to this and a slow approach to this. So the title I used for it is, oh, I don't know if you remember, Matt, graduated concentric consensual expansion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I do remember this. I think it might be, I mean, on the one hand, certainly Duxbury does need more, more kind of business, more businesses, more commercial land uses, more commercial areas, in terms of our tax base and so forth. At the same time, of course, a lot of residents would prefer not to have a commercial, business, necessarily, right next door to them. And so I think that's kind of where the challenge is. Yeah, I mean, I think also like, as far as people who want to sort of start businesses out of their homes, those people are probably kind of scattered throughout the town. They're not necessarily going to be right next to, Hall's Corner or Bonji's or stuff, or Cox's Corner. And so I think it's different. It's hard. On the other hand, if we are going to, create more commercial areas, gradually, just very gradually, it would certainly make sense to try to, kind of gradually, expand the existing commercial areas a little bit instead of, because if we try to create a new commercial area, obviously there's going to be tremendous, backlash and pushback, and it's not feasible. But maybe we can just, gradually push, Hall's Corner maybe just like a tiny bit bigger if a few property owners are willing, maybe look for opportunities to do that. But it's definitely something that we have to be very careful about that. I mean, obviously, we have to be very cautious about that because there's, regardless anywhere, there's going to be kind of pushback anywhere. It's complicated.
Yeah, and that's why it's consultative and with the engagement of the abutters and their agreement. And so part of it is to create the safe space where that conversation can happen, because the fear and anxiety is created by the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen there. It could be worst case scenario, right? But if it's more, we were thinking of something like this, what do you think of something like this? Oh, I like it, I don't like it. And then they have some time to sit with it and talk to other people about it, and the conversation spreads. The main point of this was to enable that at the very local neighborhood level, and have the idea be able to progress in somewhat of a safe way before any kind of a proposal or any kind of concrete idea enters, the broader public consciousness. Not a stealth, type of thing, but a consensual type of thing. And it is the natural course of any, thriving or growing community that you tend to have that agglomeration of commercial use. A center will grow, and Duxbury can't do that because of our existing laws. And I don't know that they're serving us at this point for that reason.
And I think we end up with what we're getting with the 40B side of things, where we're not able to even opine on the growth that's occurring in the town. And it's because the easiest way for someone to develop is 40B at this point, and there's no other attractive means to as a developer make money through expansion in Duxbury. And so they're going to use the state law, and that provides zero input from us. We're allowed to say this is what we think you can do, but we're not allowed to force their hand in any way. So we end up with communities that we, not that we don't want, but we don't have our ability to say, well, we'd like a trail along your community, or this or that really binds our hands, and there's no planning anymore. It's just, there's a property, they're using state regs, and go have at it.
Yeah.
So Tag, what is your suggestion here as to how to get started on something like this?
Well, it says right there, identify potential modifications. It's really starting a conversation with the people in the NBs and the abutters. That's the idea.
Okay. All right,
And,
what do
you
we?
know, I have written a proposal, but it's it's just an isolated idea at this point. I wouldn't want to advance it without that engagement.
I mean, I think maybe we identify who those people are. Once you can create a list and say, all right, these are the folks that would be the next concentric ring. And I think, Chad, your point of it being a concentric kind of plan is a smart idea of saying like, all right, this is the ring of the next folks that would be involved in that expansion of Paul's Corner, let's say.
Mhm.
Is that something you'd like? Pardon?
Yeah, I don't know how can I help advance this?
Do you want to come up with a list of abutters to all the businesses in Hall's Corner?
I'd be happy to do it.
Oh, yeah, that's a function of the assessing department. They have a tool for that. So yeah, I can do that. And I'll go back and revisit the draft I put together, and I can circulate it to the board if you guys want to consider it and critique it.
Sure. All right, it's 8 o'clock. We made it through 3. Lauren, you're on. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Do we want to try for one more at least? Right underneath it, 31. This is saying the first 2 headings and its current zoning identify potential modifications to encourage the mixed use development desired in these areas. So
I think the answer to that could be the same as the other one as far as our next step as far, because it's really, where is that map going to exist? Where's the map amendment going to be that says, okay, this is the next part that's going to allow for commercial or maybe the denser population or whatever.
continue working on using the information from what you and Tag are talking about.
Yeah, as far as like, you gotta identify where.
Yeah.
And then you identify, all right, how.
Conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like, if it's, let's just say, on Hall's Corner, it's all single family homes that are an acre lot, then okay, then maybe that's not the best place to start. Maybe it's somewhere else that has tighter, like on Washington Street, let's say. You're Stug Harbor, there's a lot of like smaller lots. So it's like, that's already almost in its own nature rezoned to a smaller zone. And so there might be an easier place to start than Hall's Corner over there, identifying the pilot program, if you will.
And at some point, Tag and Matthew, I thought somebody, I don't know if it was Wayne or if it was Jim or somebody like that. So something about we have to be mindful of spot zoning, and does that create that by adding one property at a time?
Well, if you're expanding a current zone, then it shouldn't be, but like, it would be like, if you took somewhere out, like the west side of town, that's just like, let's make that that one parcel a overlay district of whatever, but if you're
Budding and you're growing.
correct, and it shouldn't be that there shouldn't be that restriction.
Right. All right, let's stop there, maybe. We got to 4.
Almost there.
All right.
Okay. All right, anybody have anything else they want to go over today? I think it's good to talk through these things, and what did you say that somebody who came up with all this stuff? Well, that was just like, there was this huge effort, and these people like, these are all the things we want, how do we get there? And that's
Yeah, and I think finding the
through it.
little bites is a good way to. Because like, when I first was looking at the comp plan of just like, there's a lot of words, but how do we put it in action? And if you don't think about it, it ends up like the PowerPoint bridge where you're not managing it over 30 years. You're like, oh no, it's falling apart.
Right.
Like,
Crisis, yeah.
yeah, and I feel like that's in a way, again, kind of how the 40Bs, and not to harp on it, but if you're not allowing, like Tag was kind of pointing to the ability to do certain things with the current zoning regulations, they're gonna everyone's gonna find a way to, because everyone wants to, make money, support their family, and if
Yeah,
our developers,
it's
they have
funny,
to. They have
Go
to,
around it or overwhelm it, yeah, Route
Yeah.
40B.
Yeah.
I guess I just think the challenge.
Yeah, I noticed that Bree is online. Is there anything you'd like to chime in about? We don't have public comments per se, but if there's something you wanted to talk about with you that's on the agenda.
Here and it is
Oh, she's got the
or
Wi-Fi problem.
What'd you say? Oh, Bree, we can't hear you very well.
Try turning off your video. Maybe we'll get the audio feed.
I was just here in case there was any questions.
Yeah, what's going on with Chestnut Street? That's an adjacent, multi-family.
Yeah, I
property.
mean, I'm kind of having a property line issue right now with the sidewalk that attaches Brothers to our property back there. We're having a little bit of a liability dance. The
Nice.
new owners were guaranteed that it was not going to be an issue for them as far as liability. And we took on a couple of the different paving projects, assuming that they would be liable for it. So I don't know, but I'm getting new sidewalks come before this winter. And so that's my most recent property line dance. I would like to add some more parking between the Verizon building and that first housing building when you pull in. I think that would benefit Falls Corner as well as our actual, housing complex. We've got 40 something parking spots, 56 units, and almost every single person has at least one aid. So parking's been a problem. We got new driveway and they painted all the parking spots wrong, so that was cool. And my sidewalks are still not ADA compliant. It's my 5th year, I think, as president now, as chair. So that's on my big to do. I would like to get the sidewalks done before the snow falls, and I would like to talk to Brothers about it before then. I have a lot of the people over there using their dumpsters as a smoking area.
Right.
So I'm hoping that maybe they'll take the cost of like the railing. I'll take the cost of the sidewalk. Maybe they'll take the liability and I'll build a gazebo for my smokers. So I'm doing a little bit of a dance.
Bree, I'm sorry. Could you identify your address, please?
My address is 1041 Union Street. I'm speaking as the chair of the Duxbury Housing Authority, as well as a member of the Duxbury Housing Authority Trust and a member of the CPC.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Always happy to be a fly on the wall for these discussions. And of course, I've been a solar advocate from day one, but the battery conversations always going to be a hot topic. So I like to be a fly on the wall when I can be for that, as Tag knows.
Thank you. All right, anybody else from me?
I also wanted to throw out, I don't know if you saw the chat, but you were discussing, commercial properties in Hall's Corner, and there is the limo service there that's out of their home. And there's also, Dr. Carr, the chiropractor, he lives there as well with his wife and daughter, son, I don't remember, but their little one. So there's at least 2 there. Plus there's two family subsidized family units there that go under everybody's Hall's Corner radar every day. Just throwing it out there. That's our biggest pocket of subsidized Section 8 housing is in Hall's Corner.
Yep.
Okay.
I just wanted to remind everybody, as I guess I wrote, we're on vacation happily from August 6th to 10th in Vermont. So I'll be trying to forget about work for a few days, sort of relax and swim and see my family. So
nice.
Yeah.
All right.
But I'm sure I saw you guys. Well.
Yeah, that's right. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. If we get a break. All right. Anything else, anybody?
So a quick question. Is town meeting been scheduled yet? Or is it always a certain day?
Who knows?
You're trying to move it to May.
Okay, perfect.
One of the select board members is trying to move it to May.
Yeah, I just had things coming up towards the end of the year. I didn't know if
Yeah,
it was end of the year situation.
Yeah, occasionally we do a special town meeting, that's usually in the fall.
Okay, maybe that's
Last
what
year
it
was
is.
in June, sometimes it can be in the fall, it kind of depends.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
So no dates are set.
Perfect.
All right, anything else? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay,
All right, so all those in discussion, all those in favor, starting with Tag,
Carpenter, aye.
Matthew Ray, aye.
Kristen Rath, aye.
Steve Gant, aye.
yeah, go ahead.
Right, thank you very much. All right, thank you, everyone.